All right. Hello. My name is Slumpatar. My name is also Samatar. Um, this is gonna be my review video on To Be Hero X Season 1. To Be Hero X aired last year, or actually, like, the 1 year anniversary kind of just passed for the show. We're still in Season 2 waiting room. Um, Yeah, I mean, To Be Hero X was a series was recommended to me by one of my close friends. Shout out LK. They make amazing videos. You should totally go to their YouTube channel and subscribe. They make amazing series videos called the Economics. It's fire. Tap in. They put me on right before the first episode came out, and it was probably one of the most fun watching experiences, like week to week, that I've ever had. Uh, Definitely like my series, anime series of like 2025, Donghua series 2025. It put me on to Donghua as a genre, like as a like concept. I guess I didn't really know too much about like Chinese animation. And the director, Li Haoling, is a very talented guy. His other works, Link Click, 100%. You guys should check them out. But yeah, here we're here to talk about To Be Hero X. So in this video, I'm gonna kind of go over like my thoughts on the season. I am gonna give some of my predictions for what's to come in season two. I'm also gonna give like my own kind of like rankings on the heroes and how I feel about them. Uh, so yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's get on into it. Just so you know, if you haven't watched it, this is probably your time to click off the video because there is gonna be spoilers. It's been out for over a year now. Go watch it. So, my thoughts on season one. Sorry if the mic just clipped. Apologies. I thought the show was incredibly unique. To Be Hero X, as a series going in like an anthological format, was very unique. I haven't really watched many anthologies before. Basically setting out like I think the social media campaign for the show was incredible. There was a lot of like interaction that like the fans could like go on social medias. There was the hero poll where people could vote each week and kind of like vote with their own trust, kind of like how people in the show trust other heroes, and then they get more power as a result. Um, the schedule showing that like the first four episodes were for Lin Ling, the next three for Isol, the next three for Lucky, and on was really cool because they gave people something to look forward to. Um, there was like little like hero trailers that they posted on YouTube leading up to the series coming out. So I thought that was really cool, very engaging as a viewer. Um, I think To Be Hero X's power system is probably one of the coolest that I've seen in a very long time, especially for like a superhero genre. Sorry about that. The whole concept of the fact that like society is what gives you your power, the fact that what people believe you to be is what you end up being, I think is so sick. And not something that's really been touched upon in like other superhero shows to my knowledge. Um, I think it was a really good commentary on like just like society and like social media in general, like how people obsess over followers and their standing. In a similar light, the same way how in To Be Hero X, like your trust can get corrupted very easily with scandals, and bad press. I think is a very cool kind of I guess like sort of allegory to people like getting canceled and their standings in society and their careers getting torn apart over you know stuff that bad stuff that happens to them. I do think that season one was a like big setup season for season two. I do think that season two is probably going to be told in a more linear format. I think the anthological format was really good for us getting to know each of the heroes and starting with Lin Ling, which took Lin Ling took place. His arc was the most modern, right? The closest to present day, and then each character's arc kind of slowly goes back in time. Up until a certain point, eventually, we get back to year 40 AC, and 41 AC, which is where Lin Ling's arc ends up. Um, the thing obviously that like the elephant in the room, the animation was absolutely insane. I think the multiple studios working on it added a lot of flavor to the show. It was genuinely a very fun show to just watch and look at, even if you were just kind of completely brain off. I think To Be Hero X is a show that you could 100% enjoy as like monitor to like brain off content, but I think also as like a weekly viewer it was also a very fun show to kind of like watch and look for small little tidbits and details because the show does reward you for that. There's a ton of Easter eggs, namely the alien ship crash is actually like shown on a billboard in the first episode, and that alien ship is a major plot point going on, reappearing in episodes, I believe 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Basically, what the whole like little Johnny, the Johnny's plot, as well as Loli's plot with her dad. Um, the shifting between 2D and 3D, I think, was just so sick. The snaps that you would hear, X was, I mean, just a pure, yeah, man's just aura, bro. Like, there's no other ifs, buts, or ands. Like, anytime X was on the screen, you were in for a treat. So that made it really, really fun. They made a really, really, really like compelling, cool guy who just has a metric ton of aura. Um, as I said before, definitely was my favorite season, my favorite series of 2025. Also, FYI, yeah, I have bullet points here, but I'm mostly kind of just like going off these bullet points just to kind of guide my thoughts. So I am gonna kind of ramble a little bit. That's just the nature of what happens. That's just kind of how I am. I love talking about the show. I could talk about it for hours. So yeah, I'll try to keep it, decent length, but we'll see where this ends up going. How long it actually ends up taking. Um, Lee Howling, as I said before, was very, very fun director. He has he's the type of guy who has a lot of like plot twists in his works, and more so like end of episode twists that make you really like craving what's next. And I think as a weekly viewer, you really got to, the brunt end of that. I think as a person who watches it kind of in a binge watch, it is probably one of the most fun binge watchers. I've watched the show multiple times at this point with other people, by myself. But in both of those modes of like viewing experience, I think it's very, very fun. Um, it's really important though, again, to reiterate that like I think season one was a huge setup season, and I think that it really needs to be executed in the plot holes or the plot questions, not plot holes, not holes until they're actually like, we know that they're not getting any more. But those need to be answered, and I think they're all going to be answered in season two. Characters like the Johnnies and Dragon Boy are pretty much entirely contingent on their story arcs in season two. Otherwise, they just look kind of like fraudulent, right? Uh, I mentioned the Johnnies and Dragon Ball because those are the two biggest like fraud allegation characters that I've seen on media. Like what other people, fans of the show's reception. Yeah, and as a fan of the Johnnies, I mean it's an indefensible. You gotta just have to take that on the chest. Um, Another important thing, the fact that it's a original show. It's like completely original. There's no previous work to reference. To Be Hero and To Be Heroine are completely separate shows. A lot of people ask, do you need to watch those two shows first? You don't have to. So there was nothing that you could like read the manga and then get spoiled or kind of get your answer right away. It also made it so that when people were making up theories and kind of like speculating on what's going on in the show and what's going to happen next, I mean, that no one's kind of like reading the manga and then coming in with like, yeah, I think this is going to happen, this is an insane theory, and then it ends up being true because they read the manga. So yeah, what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna rank all my heroes, and what I did is I'm not gonna do it in like it's not gonna be tiered or anything like that. But I'm gonna or not like ranked in order, but I'm gonna have like tiers. So I'm gonna do B tier, A tier, S tier because I do generally like all the characters, even Dragon Boy. Because I think he is probably like the most hated character. I think Dragon Boy is actually incredibly cool. I think he's a very, very like sick character. His concept is very, very cool. But we just need to know more about him. And he, I have a theory about him as well. So I do think he's going to be a very pivotal character at the end of the day, even though he's just generally an asshole. So I'm only ranking the top 11 heroes, and I say 11 because you have to factor in Nice as well as Lin Ling. Smile and Enlighter, y'all are both goated. Don't worry. Never forget. Enlighter was right. All along. So, for my B tier characters, we have Lin Ling, and we have Dragon Boy. So I'll start with Lin Ling. Lin Ling is the first character that you meet in the show. He's kind of like your average guy, your stereotypical like main protagonist who is like a nothing, a nobody, a loser even, who ends up having to rise up through the rankings and in his journey to be a hero. Lin Ling I think is actually really cool. The thing first and foremost about Lin Ling, the guy's a simp. You can defend him all you want. He's a simp. Okay, that's whatever, his motivation for working, the reason why he, didn't, jump off the building. Well, I won't say the reason why he didn't jump off the building, but the reason what was carrying him through life was his idol Moon, who was a hero contracted at Treatment. And remember, all the heroic stuff, a lot of it is just superficial. A lot of it is advertisement. A lot of it is media campaigns to bolster heroes' trust, more money, more deals, more prominence, more popularity. It's, recursive. It cycles into each other. Um, Lin, you know, I think was a great character to start the show with, though, because the pacing of the first episode I think is incredibly fast. A lot of people say they either really liked the first episode or they weren't the biggest fan of it because, again, it moves incredibly fast. And I think the reason why it was kind of structured like that was because of it kind of replicates and shows you how Lin Ling is kind of going through the show, or going through like the motions of becoming a hero and taking on Nice's personality after brother decided to just jump off the building himself. Um so the fact that it's just incredibly fast paced and you're kind of just taken for a ride as the viewer, I think is intentional to kind of show what Lin Ling is going through. I think his arc was really well done. It kind of lays the footwork for the rest of the series. It kind of shows you what current day hero society is like. And I think his rise and fall and then subsequent rise again in the trust system is actually very, very interesting. I think the fact that he was Lin Ling at the end, episode 4, Enlighter, aka God Eye, at that point, with the fear, had taken what he had thought to be Moon, and Treatment Corporation was straight up willing to let Moon die. And the reason why is because Moon didn't know about Lin Ling's existence. And the fact that he was not truly nice. And Treatment at all costs did not want that to happen. Especially because, as we know later on, Nice was like low-key a failure, at least in the eyes of Shang Di, the CEO of Treatment. So when Lin Ling took over Nice's persona, and now suddenly he's rising back up the rankings. Now he's like suddenly their cash cow, I guess, right? He's their top aspect, their top prospect. So they had to do everything possible to maintain his identity and not reveal the truth about Lin Ling, to the point that they basically forged an article, or not wrote an article, saying that Lin Ling is actually the one who jumped off the building, not Nice. The truth is obviously revealed, and Lin Ling, admits the truth to everyone, admits that, reveals that Nice is dead. But one thing that was really interesting about Lin Ling is the fact that he was actually just willing. He actually was just able to break out of the trust system, and it's been shown as a recurring theme in that. Sorry, it's been shown as a recurring theme in the show that people cannot do that normally. I mean, you have Ghostblade, who wanted so badly to speak when he was talking to his wife about the whole situation with her being pregnant, and he was completely unable to the point where, he had a little bit of a breakdown. And you have other heroes like Fernman, who literally could not sit, could not shit, could not shower if he dropped the soap. Like, quite literally could not do anything because of his trust. Um, so Lin Ling being able to just shed the trust system altogether and break out of it, I think is actually a key point that will be probably mentioned in season 2, because that's a feat that I don't think we've seen anyone else do. But that's really it for Lin. I mean, he's a cool guy. I think his story with Isol is going to be very, very cool because, again, Isol deaded his girl right in front of him for what we don't know. We don't know the reason why he did that. Um, I kind of think that he probably did it to kind of get him less focused on the tournament and more focused on revenge, which would cause him to drop out of the rankings. Maybe a retaliatory thing. You got to know that Rock is the one who sent him to do that. So, and Rock is the nefarious mastermind, probably the biggest villain in the show because he wants Zero to be resurrected. But yeah, and speaking of Rock, we have Dragon Boy. Now, Dragon Boy is also a very cool character. I'm gonna say everyone's a very cool character. Dragon Boy's an asshole. Apparently, according to like the wiki and what like the comments from Li Hao Ling and like info sheets, Dragon Boy isn't actually like that much of a dick. He likes helping the elderly. He loves like taking nature and animals and stuff. But Dragon Boy is the kind of guy who had a horrible upbringing. So his reason for being an asshole is kind of rooted in the fact that he had a very abusive childhood. I mean, and that's the thing. We don't know that much about Dragon Boy's past. That's the reality of it. We really don't. So the fact that the first we see of him, he's swimming in an ice lake at age I don't even know. And we find out in the middle of his fight with Smile as he undergoes his transformation that he was under the lake, and it seemingly his mother and his father were telling him that he could hold on, he could do better. Lock in, bro. You don't drown, bro. That's got to be like one of the worst ways to die, being trapped. Imagine like you fall under an ice lake and you get disoriented and you can't find the way up, and then you find the way up and you can't break through the ice because you're in water. That'd be a horrible way to go out. So I do sympathize with him a little bit. I don't think they actually did anything to Smile's daughter or family. I think it was pure rage bait. I think he's like one of the CEOs of rage bait. One thing I also respect with him is that Dragon Boy ain't saying no nothing. Hey, he never backed down from a fade. He saw X and said it was on sight. I gotta give it to him. Another thing is he's a scrapper, so you know what? I really like the hand-to-hand scrappers. I think his power is really, really cool. The fact that he takes damage and then he can reinflict it double. Also giving him kind of like a pseudo immunity to fear. I don't want to say pseudo. I can almost just say like an immunity to fear until we see that until we see otherwise. But again, he killed Smile, so he's he's an asshole. Can't really cut it any other way. His story arc is probably going to be very pivotal in season 2 because his origins are completely unknown, and I low-key theorized that Homeboy was one of the entities that were on the alien ship. So that's it for our B tier. Now we got our A tier. We got the Johnnies, Nice, and Ghostblade. So I'll start the Johnnies. I like the Johnnies a lot. I was gonna put them S tier, but I literally can't because objectively speaking, they are a little fraudulent, and I'm gonna say Little Johnny is the one who's mostly fraudulent. Big Johnny, not a fraud. You can't. Honestly, you could say that Little Johnny. Sorry, damn, I'm mixing shit up. Little Johnny is the fraud. Big Johnny is not a fraud. All right, Big Johnny you can put in S tier, and Little Johnny you could put in what's it called? In B tier. But that's why I put him in A tier. They have an incredibly tragic past. The craziest thing is I feel like the Johnnies had more, like Little Johnny had more aura, like when he was a kid, mean mugging. But that's when he was revenge driven. And I don't know, a lot of characters when they're revenge driven are like, they just have that like that him factor. The way he did Vortex after meeting him in the hospital as a kid and saying like, yeah, I'll see you in the hero tournament, bum. I thought that was really, really cool. The problem is that like Little Johnny is kind of like a fraud. Like he doesn't really do, I guess, anything. I mean, so when he was a kid and Big Johnny went on the rampage because they find their father Ashang dead. He was able to capitalize on that and get the trust. I mean, people saw that he was the one who calmed down Little Johnny, leading to him rising incredibly fast in the rankings. The fact that he got the credit for defeating an X, not defeating an X, sorry, but the Beast defeated X, aka Big Johnny, right? Vortex at the time, but then Little Johnny got the credit for taming Big Johnny, right? And then he also got the powers to communicate with animals and kind of like control animals as a result because they all thought that he's just like an animal whisperer. So I think that's incredibly cool. After the Ruins incident, he clearly acknowledges, and rightfully so, that he needs training and he needs to get stronger. So he switches agencies from FOMO to DOS. So we were wondering for the longest time, is he going to end up actually like he's on FOMO, but we thought he's on DOS? How does this happen? Well, we find out he gets his ass whooped by E-Soul in a 1v2 with Ghostblade. Ghostblade and the Johnnies versus E-Soul, and E-Goat low-key kind of, I'm not going to go too much further, not to anger people. But, yeah, I think they are also an incredibly pivotal character. I mean, all the characters are incredibly pivotal, but I think his relationship with Ghostblade, the fact that Little Johnny seems to kind of know something's up with Ghostblade, but hasn't, like Little Johnny's like shit radar for when people are like not meeting well is incredible. He is scowling at oh my god, what's his name? I'm gonna pause one. All right, sorry, Mickey. That's the CEO of DOS. Little Johnny immediately sniffed that man out as not to be trusted. Which is, I mean, again, I think the CEOs are a great commentary on how actual CEOs are in our current society. Can't trust them. They care about profits and profits only, and it shows very much so in Mickey's behavior, and Shang-Chi and Rock. And honestly, Zach is also. We thought Zach was like, how could this guy be sus? And turns out bro's complicit in trying to resurrect Zero. So I mean, there we go. That's our answer for that. But that's the Johnnies. At the end of the day, they're very cool. But I think they're how they go about handling the reveal that Ghostblade killed the Johnny's father and how they go about it is going to be very pivotal in season 2. I do think that the Johnnies are going to forgive Ghostblade at the end of the day. Ghostblade has been on a kind of path of atonement, and I'll get to Ghostblade. Ghostblade's not a good character. He is not a morally upstanding character. You can objectively cannot say that. But Ghostblade is a very cool guy and a very cool character, and his character development I think has been very good. But that's it on the Johnnies. Nice. Nice is probably one of Nice is truly an enigma, and I think Nice is interesting because he is, I mean, he is the definition of boy fail. All right. On top of that, I think his past. I mean, the thing we know about Nice is we see him very superficially in the first, like, first in Lin arc, right? To the point where, I mean, Lin, who makes all of Nice's ads and all that stuff, he's pissed off. He's fed up with Nice. He's like, dude, one day you gonna be old and decrepit and you ain't gonna have no fans. And of course, Nice heard all of that after having probably the worst night of his life, as we find out in episode 23, and he offs himself. Nice is an incredibly tragic character because he simply wanted to do good. He did just want to be a hero. He, we don't know about his parents or anything like that, but it seems like he was very close to Smile growing up. He was always like seeing Smile, like he would go to the fan meetups, I guess, right? All the kids, he was involved in that, took up ballet. Basically, I guess, I mean, not even I guess, he was literally groomed from a young age to become a hero. And and we know and we find out in his past that he genuinely meant well, had a big heart, and wanted to do good, especially with his friend roommate, wink wink, hint hint, nudge nudge. But it's really tragic because he becomes just a drone. He has to follow orders. He ends up actually having to do the furthest thing from what he wanted to do, which is not being a hero. Everything is staged. He has to fight his friend, which at first it was fine because they were both kind of rising up. They take the role. One would be the hero, one would be the villain, and they would rise up together and make it in life. And it turns out that Nice just becomes Shang-Chi's tool for revenge against Rock and MG. And it's tragic. It's sad because, again, we see in the latter half of the series how Nice is just dragged through the mud because he's not able to hit top 10 in time. And then it's just failure after failure after failure. The Ruins incident, failure. Even though they spinned it positively for Nice, still a failure. Then you have the Smile incident, failure. Again, even though the craziest thing, and this is probably the breaking point for Nice, right? The whole idea of the Smile incident is, okay, you have Nice, you have Dragon Boy. Both of them are gunning for Smile's spot in the top 10. And so it leads to Dragon Boy, being the first one to get to Smile. And then Nice pulling up to the scene with a vial of fear. And the craziest thing is that Nice actually does make the right decision. He decides to abandon the mission and help Smile. And what does it lead to? And remember, the whole point of the idea is wait to see who the victor is and then inject them with fear. Nice takes initiative and hears Smile's plea for help, decides to help him out. Inject Dragon Boy with fear. Except, who could have thought that everyone knows about Dragon Boy's powers, but people did not know that Homeboy could also reflect fear. And that's what happened, and it led to Smile getting corrupted and infected with fear and becoming, one of the coolest animated sequences in the show. One of the coolest looking villains in the show. But an absolute tragedy. His childhood hero, one of his biggest motivations for becoming a hero. He now is a monster beyond return. And it's tragic because he then witnesses his monster get blown to literal smithereens by Dragon Boy. Dragon Boy, who is now empowered to be stronger with Nice. And I'll give it to Nice. Nice stood on business. You know, he wasn't he ain't back down from a fade either. All right, but he was unfortunately outmatched, as we saw. Dragon Boy was just stronger, and Nice was saved by none other than the GOAT himself, Hero X. What a beast! But we saw with Nice's breakdown what was probably the last vestiges of like hope in being a hero crumble away, because that was just tragic, man. That cry from him was really sad. It was really a heart, like a heartfelt scene. It was really sad. And then he fails again with the whole taking away the deeds from people's houses and selling them to treatment corporations so they could become projects and development buildings for treatment. The fact that he becomes an enforcer for that, but then he still holds on to it. He's like, listen, do whatever it takes to get the deeds, but no killing. He still don't want blood on his hands. Now that's still, I think I can see that there's like a tiny bit of like, a good, nice, like, nice being a good guy in there. But unfortunately, what do we see? At the end of the day, when it comes to, achieving Shang-Di's goals or doing the right thing, we see that he decides, well, I'm not going to get my hands dirty, but I'm going to let the Men in Black phobia clones take care of the murder of Shinya and Ahu. And it backfires again. So Nice again making a decision, trying to do what Shang-Di wants. Fails. He is literally has a rap sheet of failures. Not a single nice W takes place, I think, quite literally in the show. And that sucks for Homeboy. Ahu, big dog, Ahu locks in and kills the phobia clone. And to make things even worse, Ahu rises up to number 8 in the hero rankings instead of Nice. So not only was Nice unable to make it to the top 10, he also failed. He failed at getting into the top 10, and a dog took his place. I'd be sick. I'd be sick to my stomach, bro. I would be absolutely sick to my stomach if I had to deal with that. So, yeah. Especially when Shang-Di rubs it all in his face after as well. So you know what? Nice has a massive mental breakdown. And he, jumps. But Nice returns. And I think that's very, very interesting. And he seemingly has fear, like, leaking out of his face. Something clearly happened. We're going to find out very early in Season 2 what happened to Nice, because it's a humongous thing even on, like, FOMO media. It was blowing up. And Nice literally made it back into the top 10 as a result of his resurrection. And we know, as a rule set by the director himself, that the only thing that can resurrect someone is quite literally someone be, like, an act of God, right? Like, a character reaching godhood. And then they would gain the power to resurrect somebody. But Nice is still there. And we saw Nice bleed out when he fell. So it's like, how? We'll find out. I remember long enough about Nice. Let's get to Ghostblade. We'll try to keep it a little bit. I'll try to, be a little bit faster. But Ghostblade. Ghostblade, everyone's favorite. Hey, bro, people love simping for Ghostblade. He's a very cool character. And the reality of the matter is, I think Ghostblade is, like, that archetype of character you kind of need. He's a murderer. In fact, he's a murderer who doesn't even try to fact check. He doesn't try to fact check if his victims are actually guilty. To him, if he's given an assignment to kill you, that's good enough for him. Betrayers, liars, basically a lot of any kind of negative, like, connotation about you. Like, basically, if he gets the assignment to kill you, Ghostblade will stop at nothing to make sure that you are dead, right? Because the assumption is, if he's getting an assignment, you have to be a bad guy. Ghostblade became an assassin because, literally, he was a butcher, right? And I'm pretty sure that Ghostblade is on the spectrum where he's least neurodivergent in some way or form. I think that the show does an amazing way depicting, like, his sensitivity, like his, like, his overstimulation, and why he has such an aversion to having a big family, which leads to his split from his wife. Ghostblade is not a good character, like a good guy. He's not a good guy. He's a good character. He's not a good guy. But he is humanized. when he realizes that because he spends his entire life basically trying to care for and love his daughter in his own way because he doesn't know how to, right? He didn't really have a particularly good upbringing. He was probably neglected and wanted him to, you know, have like take over the family business, right? And so him leaving to become an assassin and making his name Ghostblade because it sounded cool, which is the funniest shit ever. I can't lie. That is so funny. He's like, I'm gonna be Ghostblade because it's cool. And I'm gonna be an assassin because it's cool. Like I think that's cool. I think it's like him living out his childhood fantasies that he wanted. He never got a chance to do. But Ghostblade also killed the father of our one of our main characters, the Johnnies, and I think that needs to be rectified, especially because Ghostblade gets slapped in the face with his he gets karma, right? He gets some karma. Um, you know, his daughter is directly targeted by MG and Treatment. All the scientists were. And for once in his life, he has to think, damn, like, now I am the like, have I just really been a pawn? This is how disposable I am. In fact, the fact that he volunteers for the mission at the alien ship, the escort mission at the alien ship, was suspect enough for Rock to instantly discard him and have Esol be sent as well to make sure that not only Ghostblade is buried, but everyone else at the alien ship, right? And I'm kind of all over the place with Ghostblade because there's a lot to say about the character. The character is a very very like cool, like he's a very cool character to like talk about and like be in the show. Because there's a lot of people rooting for him, and there's a lot of people saying that he needs to like get even more consequences. Now, I do think that he's on the path of atonement and redemption. He left MG. Now, he only left MG after he got directly affected. So, you could say it's kind of like the classic leopards ate my face, and you wouldn't be wrong for saying that. But I do think that he is going to work as an independent hero now, going forward. I mean, he is in the hero tournament, but he's not part of MG. I think, and also the big, here's a big thing. We do know as an independent hero, based on the montage, this is my interpretation, this is most people's interpretation to that montage that X shows Ahu and like the Tesseract kind of like thing in the 4D space. We find out that in episode 4, Esol kills Moon, and then the episode ends with it saying 2 weeks left before the hero tournament. Well, we find out in that montage that it was seemingly Ghostblade who actually saved Lin Ling from Esol in that moment. So we know that Ghostblade is on site for Esol, especially after their first matchup in the Ruins incident. That was so people will downplay the crap out of Ghostblade. I will say wholeheartedly, I don't think there's much. I will fight anyone on this. Ghostblade put up an incredible performance because not only is Ghostblade an assassin archetype hero, right? He is the type of guy who wants to get the jump on his opponent. He did not get the jump on his opponent. Esol did. Second of all, Ghostblade is an assassin being the one to have to protect somebody is not exactly conducive to being an assassin. You are not well equipped for protecting other people as an assassin. You're equipped to kill your target. So Ghostblade not only having to rush to protect the Johnnies on multiple occasions in his fight for Esol, while also holding his own, is an incredible performance considering the fact that also Esol's also a speedster. So they're both speedsters, but you also have this guy who's also in a suit of metal. You don't have rubber gloves, you're using knives, you're against a guy with a metal suit, and the one opening that you do have and you stab it to his hand, you find out that this dude don't even have a hand, it's a prosthetic. So you know what? What can you say? I think Ghostblade put up a expert, incredible performance because again, having to save someone who is not pulling their weight while also having to fight this demon who is trying to kill both of you, not good. And what we later find out is that Esol at the time of the Ruins incident was rank 3. So you also can't even say that Esol was like a jobber or anything like that. He was actually just like that. You know? So anyhow, Ghostblade's going to be a very cool character in Season 2. Everyone's going to be a very cool character in Season 2. I'm most interested to see his interactions with the Johnnies, as well as his interaction with with Esol. Because, again, I'm sure that Ghostblade wants Rock dead now. Rock directly endangered his daughter. So we will see. Now on to the S tiers. So we have 6 people in the S tier. I'm gonna start with the ladies of To Be Hero X. I'm gonna start with Loli. Loli probably has one of my favorite, if not my favorite, character arc in terms of like development as a character. I think she's probably the most criminally underrated character. Just full stop. I think that she was severely disrespected. Like people, I think the community severely disrespects her in her episodes. But to be fair, I think that she's also shafted by the fact that her arc and her episodes are like her 2 episodes are more focused on like world building and setting up the like Ruins incident arc, because her arc, Ghostblade's arc, and the Johnny's arcs are all so closely intertwined that you could say that her arc is actually all of those episodes, because I believe she appears in just about all those episodes. In fact, her arc is a direct segue directly into Ghostblade's arc. Her arc ends, and that's basically where Ghostblade's arc starts. So I think that like she was kind of done, I guess, a little dirty. I mean, her episodes are like the lowest rated, and I think that's kind of like a little fucked up. I'm not gonna lie, pardon my language, but because I did like her episodes a lot. I think she's a very cool character. She is literally Iron Man. She's Iron Woman. All right, that's literally what she is. To the trope of the whole father getting murked, right? Making the suit, all of that. She's probably one of. I mean, she's out of all the characters, she is one of my favorites. Just like actual like favorites. Um, she was an idealist. She's always wanted to be a hero. She wanted to be a hero for the right reasons. She never wanted, like, she was extremely determined despite even her father, who again neglected her for his focus on the work. And again, we know that her, father, Lu Tong, is like very, very big in the Hero Commission for his work and research. We know that researchers, get smarter because of their trust. This guy's smart as hell. But he unfortunately meets his end, and he meets his end, protecting Nono, and I think it's incredibly tragic that Loli has to literally witness it. Her dad get murked by the phobia clones, and I think that's like her breaking point. I mean, the question that Nono asks is like, wait a minute, if there are heroes being sent here, why are they attacking us? And that's a great question, Nono, because why are the heroes attacking you guys? It's because the heroes are not really all heroes. They're there to propagate the system. Um, I think that Loli is an absolute beast. She scraps with Nice, who on paper, again, this is a girl with no trust, just her suit. You have to keep that in mind, right? Quite literally, one punch from Nice should just skewer her, right? But she also never backs down from a fade. I can't lie, this fight performance from Nice was fraudulent. He had a masterpiece, a masterful performance against Dragon Boy, but against Loli he got owned. He got bitched, literally verbatim. What weak punches? I think in one of the translations, like such weak ass punches, verbatim from Loli. That's what I'm talking about. She's a beast, right? The way I think her like that really emotional scene where she crashes out and just utterly obliterates all the phobia clones doesn't get credit for it, by the way. Nice does for eliminating all the phobia clones, but it was her. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And I think it's really sad at the end of episode 20 when he shows her at not. Oh, I can't forget. Not only does she lose her dad, she watches her. No, she doesn't watch her. No, she does watch her friend get brutally murdered. No. No watches Daxiang get his head. Probably the most. No, not probably. Is the most brutal death in the show. Daxiang's death, right? Loli's friend, Loli and Nono's friend. Probably the most. No, is the most brutal death in the show, bar none. Unbelievable. I don't think the phobia clones had to do all that. I mean, if you ask me, bashing his skull in like that was absolutely asinine. And Nono had to view all that, and Loli pulled up to the scene, witnessing that Nono getting maimed by the phobia clones, her dad getting skewered, and Daxiang's caved in skull. This girl has trauma. She needs therapy. And we find out at the end of it all, she ends up, because of the Ruin incident, becoming rank 6, I believe. She's the rank 6 hero now. Utterly insane. Utterly crazy. Um, and the thing is that she probably has the most tragic ending in season one of all the characters. She achieves her goal of being a hero, a top hero at that, but at what cost? I do think that Loli, it's on site. It's on site for nice. What if Loli ever runs into him? It's so Jover. Like, and that's the funny thing. A lot of people ask, like, during Lin Ling's arc, like, man, what would happen if Lin Ling ran into Loli? That MF gonna be absolutely obliterated. But yeah, I mean that's those are my thoughts for Loli. I think she in season two, it's gonna talk about it's gonna be focused on her rising through the system, but I think she also wants to destroy the trust system. She is friends with the Johnnies, but she's not in that like close knit group with the Johnnies and Lucky and Queen. So we'll have to see where she goes from there because she's part of FOMO with Ahu. But I do imagine that she is gonna want revenge for her dad in some way, and her friend. No, friend. Wink, wink, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Queen. Not much to say about Queen besides Aura. She's a badass bitch. She unfortunately has one of the most embarrassing losses in the show, but it's not even that embarrassing. Because at the end of the day, when she's up against X, what can you say? She also has, quite literally, one of the greatest Sakuga like sequences, fights of 2025. Actually, just the greatest. I'll say it. I said it. The Queen versus Boa fight is probably the greatest fight in 2025. It is. Uh, it's one of those fights where I'm like watching it, um, like amazed, and then I think the fight's gonna end, and then I realize the fight is still going. So I'm like, wow, holy moly, this is crazy. She's her. Like the thing is, like I thinking about the fight, it kind of leaves me speechless because at the end of the day, like that was such just an insane work from the animators. Man, it's breathtaking. Genuinely, it low key put the show on the map for a lot of people. Um, so thank you, Queen, because I think more people watching this shit is absolutely a great, a good thing. I think that Queen is one of the most important characters in the entire series. While her episodes did not focus pretty much at all on her past, aside, and I say her past, but her, graduating college at a very young age. I think at age 18 or younger than that. No, it was younger than that. It was not 18, I believe. Her graduating and her speech was one of the most pivotal like things in the universe. It was her speech led to a wave of female heroes rising up to the occasion and breaking into the mainstream. There was a lot of acceptance, mainstream acceptance for female heroes, and that all came from Queen. That was also a point of contention for Boa, who was one of the second female X, the second ever to become X, as a woman, and unfortunately for her, it's like she felt like people were kind of just attributing that to Queen's speech. It's all Queen, not her own effort, which sucked for Boa because Boa's a great character in her own right. Um, but Queen is an incredibly important character because she wants to abolish the trust system altogether. Why she wanted to do that from such a young age, we don't know. And I think that's a very interesting thing. We don't know what happened in Queen's childhood that made her want to do that. What made her like? Because when people have dreams and goals, they come from something. Kids come up with the most random stuff. I want to be a garbage truck man. I want to be a trash collector. I want to be an arborist. I want to fabricate metal. The most random things kids will come up with, right? But like, what made it so that Queen wanted to abolish the hero system as a child? And one thing that's interesting is that we know nothing about Queen's mother. I'll get into that later. But I do think that season 2 is going to focus very closely on Queen's backstory, her origins, because I think that Queen may not be from this planet. But yeah, I mean, that's not even to mention episode 20. This one of the single most Aura-laden sequences in the show where she pulls up and stops the whole chaos that's happening at the ruins. She single-handedly stops the ruins incident with Lucky, leading to her massive boost in popularity, reaching rank 2 as a result of the ruin incident. Incredible. The fact also confirms that she is that like little she Little Johnny is mostly that confirmed that Little Johnny is basically immune to trust powers, but we know that Little Johnny trusts Queen enough to respond to her when she calls to him. Lucky Cyan. Now, luck is one of those powers that is incredibly difficult as a concept because it's just like you can say luck for anything that happens to her, luck. She's hypothetically the most overpowered character in the show. I think Lucky overall was an incredible character. I think her arc has the unfortunate placement of being right after Isol's arc, while also I think it's necessary that her arc is right after Isol's arc. But the problem is that Isol's arc was very, very like action packed and like thriller, suspense filled, with twists and turns. Whereas Lucky's arc is a lot more kind of like calm, but a little bit more emotional, if you ask me. Uh, her origins, her powers coming from the plane crash, which her like came from the hope and final wishes of all the occupants on that plane. I think was really, really like, again, pulls at the heartstrings a little bit, you know. And the fact that she basically carries on the hope for all those people is very, very cool. Her story at the orphanage, people, you know, exploiting her for her lucky capabilities was really, really sad. But you know, she perseveres through it. She doesn't want to actually become a hero, which is the coolest thing, but she kind of does it out of necessity and kind of takes on that role. She wants to just make music, you know, with her friend Luo. And I think that I'm very glad that Luo was not like killed at the end. I think everyone was pretty traumatized from, you know, the ending of Linling's arc, the ending of Isol's arc. So people were like, "Oh nah, bro, they're gonna kill Luo at the end." Thankfully, they did not. I think that was a great decision. I think he deserves to be happy. We don't know what happened to him, so people meme and say, "Oh yeah, bro, Luo's locked up in Lucky's basement so that he can't be affected by anyone else." I think that's a little bad shit, but Lucky overall, I mean, she's very, very cool. The thing is for her though, that like her character arc is kind of like it's kind of in limbo because her character arc's kind of fulfilled already. She is a hero. She's an idol. She gets to sing. She gets to make music. The only thing we don't know about really is what's going on with Luo. And we know that she's in the Queen gang with the Johnnies. She saves the Johnnies. She saves Ghostblade. Her lucky charm literally saved Ghostblade or Johnny from getting electrocuted. So, you know, we'll see what they do with her in season 2. Because again, I think she's kind of just like, it kind of sounds messed up. I like Loki. She is kind of like, I won't say like a plot device right now. She's just a fun character to have around. But her luck, also, I mean, she's also the origin for like trust X's hero journey, right? Because when she was homeless in the street, the first person to donate to her was X. But yeah, that's lucky. And then we get the next three heroes. So Isol, I gotta take a sip real quick. One sec. Oh, okay. Isol, Isol, Yang Cheng. So I'm gonna include both the Isols here. I lie me when I lie. Because I feel like in order to truly understand Yang Cheng's character, you do need to also understand the original Isol. Original Isol may be one of the most, if not the disrespected character of the show. Because he literally saved everyone. So they talk about this. The interesting thing, about To Be Hero X is that there is auxiliary media that's not necessary to consume for the enjoyment of the show. But I would say that of all the hero trailers, of all the little like side stories for all the characters that you could watch, the single most important one would be Isol's. And the reason for that is because, well, it talks about Dawnfall. And that is where the world's greatest hero, Zero, became corrupted by fear and had to be and caused a massacre. It was a worldwide calamity. And the heroes banded together, but it was ultimately Isol who stopped him, leading to him becoming the first X, and leading to him, you know, holding a legacy for many, many years. What's interesting about Esol, and Esol's probably, I'll get into it, but I'd say Esol's arc is my favorite arc. It's one of the best 3 episode runs, but I'll get into that later. Esol, Yang Chen, is just a very interesting character. He's an orphan. His goat is Esol. He was saved as a child by Esol. And he basically spends his life, going to school, surviving again as an orphan with the only real figures in his life being Uncle Rock. And just to clarify, it's not Uncle Rock is not actually his uncle, but it's more of like a term of respect. Again, I think that Uncle Rock looked out for him, cared for him. But we also see later on in episode 23 or 24 that him and Zach basically found Yang Cheng and they were like, this is the perfect guy to groom for our project to find Zero and rebirth Zero. Um, Yang Chen, his whole rise to being a hero, right? He's an actor, he's an Isol actor. He wants to, his whole goal is to meet Isol again and thank him for saving him as a kid. It's one of his biggest motivations. He works odd jobs, he does deliveries, he works at the boba shop. He's just like your standard guy. He's kind of again, he's same kind of start as Ling Ling, even to the whole like less not a simp, but has absolutely zero self-confidence, which may also be more frustrating for people to watch, considering how many times that Yang Cheng self-sabotages himself when it comes to trying to get oh my god, I'm forgetting her name. I forgot Xiao Ching. I don't know how I forgot her name. Xiao Ching, yeah. So the amount of times Yang Cheng fumbles Xiao Ching is honestly unacceptable. Uh with all due respect, okay, we all had those moments in our lives where like, damn, bro, was she really into me? I don't know, man. I think she was just being nice. You overthink that. Everyone has, people have that in their life. It happens. But when the girl literally says, you need to make a move, I'm not gonna wait around forever. My brother, my nigga in Christ, what are we doing? What are we doing, my guy? But the worst, I mean, the tragic thing about, and I think that's the thing about Yang Cheng is that one of the most defining traits of his arc is self sabotage and lack of confidence. And quite frankly, you can't blame him for having a lack of confidence because he has no parental figure in his life. Also, I'm sorry if the audio levels like go like I'm sound further away and then I sound closer. I'm like I lean back sometimes when I'm talking. So, um, he has no like guiding figure in his life aside from Isol. And you know, he has allegations put forth against him by Isol's like manager saying, "Hey, we know that you pulled that little stunt. You saved that kid. But I don't think you did that. I think you set that up to take my client's branding for yourself." And we all know that obviously Yang Cheng did not set that up. He genuinely was a hero in that moment. He saved little Pomelo. He saved the day, and he gained trust for the first time. Now, one thing that's interesting about Isol is we wonder how does he have zero trust? How is it possible for someone to have zero trust? And we learn later on, but this was theorized very early on that the reason why Yang Cheng had no trust despite having friends is that he had such little self-confidence. He had such little belief in himself. And we learned that a necessary component for trust is, well, self-confidence, believing in yourself. You have to believe in yourself in order to benefit and have trust powers. Before people can believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. We see that with Ahu, and we see that that may be a reason why Nice was unable to fly when he fell to his death. You don't believe in yourself, your powers go away with it. I think it's almost directly said by a character. I forget who at one point later on. Um, but the thing is that Yang Chen believed, like Pomelo believed him to be Isol. He himself was an Isol actor. He had such reverence for Isol, so he gained powers like Isol. That's what society believed him to be, the new Isol. So when Rock sends the two brothers to kill Shang Chao and they succeed, the interesting thing is, right, was Rock trying to dead Isol? That's something I feel like was Rock. I mean, they give him the orders to kill the fake, right?
So that might be just like Rock trying to protect his brand. But at this point, Rock knows who the fake is. So I guess you could kind of just say, oh, is this like some mastermind chess, right? Because Shang Chao's the one at the workshop. So unless Rock knew that Yang Cheng wasn't there and that Shang Chao was gonna be there, right? I don't know how. I mean, he was trying to. I mean, it works both ways because he was working at MG, right? Either you kill the fake, and then you bolster the new, or you kill the fake, you bolster the old one, or you create the situation that happened, which was accidentally kill not the fake but the fake's friend, leading to the fake wanting to get revenge, which is what happens. Yang Cheng sees that. Well, one, Yang Cheng has a moment of self sabotage, is unable to save Sheng Chao, right? He hesitates. And very clearly, he regrets it. It was not like an intentional. He did not want Shang Chao to die. I think anyone who says that, oh, Yang Sheng wanted Shang Chao to die. No, I don't think he actually wanted him to die. But at the end of the day, right, self sabotage and a lack of confidence and self esteem is a bitch. And it ultimately led to Shang Chao's the demise, right? So, as a result, he wanted to atone for it. He wanted to get revenge, leading to the funeral scene where he talks to none other than Shang Di. And he says, "What are you talking about coming to me? If you were so certain about, if you felt so bad, you would be doing what you can to get revenge." To which Yang Cheng says, "Actually, that's why I'm here. I need your help. We need to figure out. I know who did the murder." And the funniest thing is, it was Loki A. Aura. You wanna know why? Because he's like, I put the mark on that nigga. Hey, I put the mark on that nigga's neck. So I know who it is. Leading to him believing that it was Isul. The guy was hired by Isul. Because at the end of the day, Yang Chen beats his allegations, right? He gets allegations levied against him by Isol's management. He beats them and he's free to be the new Isol. And he's constantly leeching the trust from the new Isol, or from the old Isol. And keep in mind, the old Isol wanted nothing to do with Yang Chen. Did not want to take take him down. He said, listen, the people will decide who is the real Isol. I'm not interested in doing this petty stuff, right? But that leads to the public saying, hey, this old Isol's a bum. He didn't even show his face, bro. And it's sad because you know what? The old Isol literally is the reason why these people are walking around in their society. He saved them from calamity. It's a tragedy for our boy, old Isol. And Yang Chen is led, as a result, to go and box with the old Isol, leading to their insane fight. One of the coolest fight. Again, this is my second favorite fight in the show. Third favorite. I don't even know because it's probably my second. The Runes incident is insane though for the amount of moments. The Queen fight is like the coolest looking fight, the most like emotional, impactful fight. I feel like is the Isol versus Isol fight. The Battle of Chidori's, right? That was some cinema. All right, it was some straight up cinema. All right, so yeah, you know, as a viewer, as someone who watched that arc for the first time, again, Isol's arc was very, very cool. Esol has like fraud allegations. They call him E fraud, E bum, right? And I get it. Sometimes it's hard to appreciate greatness. But I think that Yang Sheng's character is very, very interesting because we see at the end of season one that I was all over the place with Esol, but at the end of the day, like I really like talking about him. I think he's very cool, and I love his arc. I can't say it enough. I love his arc. I think it's 1 hour of cinema. I think that he could go down the path of redemption, and the reason why is because he is no longer in the top 10. His focus is on being in the top 10 and becoming X. And we know that he still does heroics, but he's also a slime ball because he was willing to dead the Johnnies and Ghostblade at the Rune incident. But the thing is that he's not in the top 10. Nice took his spot. And I think that the biggest thing is that will Yongchen figure out that he was manipulated by Rock all along? I think he will. I think at the end of season one, him walking to Rock's chamber is not one of a happy gait. I mean, he looks not happy. And yes, he's wearing a mask, but I don't think under that mask he's happy at all. These two might have to do it together. Again, we've been saying it together, but like, hey, X is the man of the show. There isn't much to say about X. X is simply him. He has aura. He has that it factor. He is the driving force, one of the driving forces of this show. He's never been challenged, and I think obviously he's going to be very pivotal in season 2. We find out that his goal is to defy fate, and I think that's awesome. I think that his whole character design is incredible. The dual personality thing, or not, I want to say it's not dual. We find out it's not dual personalities at the end of the day. It's literally just a transformation between when he's X and when he's a civilian. He doesn't like doing more work than he has to do, but we know he has a good heart. We know that he's a pretty normal guy by all things considered. He's a very normal guy. Works a 9 to 5. You know, is buddies with Smile. Rest in peace. And it's like, he isn't just like some like super stoic. Like, he has feelings too. He very clearly was upset and saddened by Smile's murder, and wants to do something about it. When he takes that Smile's necklace, like his daughter's necklace back, it seems he wants, at that point, he realizes that he can no longer be a bystander anymore, and that the system, whether he likes it or not, is gonna keep moving and keep. Zero will return if things are not done. The whole commission is worried about stopping Zero, but Zero, as he says, was amongst them all along. X is, for a lot of people, their favorite character. He's probably also my favorite character. He's just incredible. There's not really much else to say. I think that he is going to be the driving force in season 2. And I'll get into it later with the theories, but I mean, we see at the end he revealed that he's just a normal guy at the hero tournament to everybody, and I think that he's gonna probably convince and try to recruit all the top 10 heroes to fix the trust system, to abolish the trust system, or to at least stop Zero in his resurrection. And what would a hero be without his dog? I wouldn't say that Ahu is X's dog, obviously. Ahu is his own guy. But the interactions between Ahu and X were incredible, and their arcs are very much intertwined, considering that X essentially is the reason why Ahu, I guess, quote unquote, became a hero to begin with. We know that Ahu is heroic. He got his trust on his own. It's more so the notoriety and the credit he gets for taking out the phobia clones and wiping them out. X did that, but Ahu gets the credit for it. I think that's very, very cool. I think that, Ahu did what he had to do to protect his owner, Shinya. And for a dog who was in a circus who didn't really care about anything, I think it's very, very, very cool. That, like, his whole development is just like awesome. He has probably the single, like, his episode, he only got a 1 episode arc, but I think his 1 episode told everything that needed to be told. It had the probably the coolest animation out of all the episodes in terms of just like how unique it was. The comic book, like, kind of like the animation style was so amazing. I loved this episode. Ahu is very, very cool. He knows the truth of the system. It seems like Zack is kind of like very laissez-faire with him, letting him do, like, he lets him try and stop X even though he knows he probably won't. And as a result, Ahu learns the truth about the entire system. So now we know Ahu and is going to be working with X most likely. He knows what's wrong with the system and what needs to be done. So, I mean, really, I mean, shit, dude, you have a dog who could talk, who could transform into whatever the people want him to. Like, you see in this trailer, he could be a samurai, he could be a hitman, he could do so much. He could turn into a lion. Like, it's awesome. Ahu is gonna be cool. We also see that, like, Ahu is, like, cool with Dragon Boy in, like, the season 2, like, X-Pol PV opening. So, you know, I wonder what interactions Dragon Boy and Ahu are gonna have. We know Dragon Boy loves animals, so that could be pretty cool. Ahu's the goat. Um, I was big on Ahu stock since day one, since I seen this trailer. So yeah, that is my my heroes. Again, this list is not ranked in order. It's just I kind of have them in tiers. How I feel about them. I kind of rambled. I definitely shortened a little people because I realized I could keep rambling and rambling and rambling and rambling. I'm just doing this all in one take, with like minor pauses here and there, so I can like if I get a brain fart, I just pause so it's not like a massive gap in. But going onward, favorite story arcs. As I mentioned earlier, I would say that Isol's 3 episode run honestly could be a movie. Love him, hate him. His arc was my favorite, and I think it contrasted Lin Ling's quite well. Um, the fact that you have Lin Ling rising to be a hero from a nobody, going about it, breaking out of the trust system, rejecting the system, and doing what he believes is right. The fact that his ad plays like that To Be Hero X ad is very, very cool. But it's contrasted by Isol, who rises up to be a hero but is corrupted by the system, and becomes disillusioned with it. He was manipulated from a very young age, and you can't blame him because he didn't have a lot of guardrails in place. Hell, he had a guardrail, Shang Chao and Xiao Xing, but Shang Chao was murdered, and that's what really set him off. And you had Rock whispering in his ear, "Hey man, hey, you should go for revenge. Hey, we have a way to deal with Easel and get him to do the lightning slash. Don't worry about it, the money. Just go there and fight. I'll get you the opening." And bro just eats that up, you know. My other favorite arc had to be Lucky's arc. I think Lucky's arc was one of the biggest arcs for world building. It introduces fear, the counterbalance to trust. Being fear. It also originates from Lucky's arc with the orphanage. I mean, I think that the flight, her origins for her powers was really like I just genuinely enjoyed Lucky's arc. I think her arc is criminally underrated. I can't believe I have to say that. And the fact that it kind of gets like dissed a bit, that I see like Lucky getting dissed a lot, and again I can't really see it because, well, it's not as action packed as Isol's arc, and it's a very high. Like the first seven episode run for To Be Hero X is very, very strong. And I think that Lucky's arc also contributes to that. It's also the one of the second to last arc to have a 3 episode run. The only other one being the Johnny's, but the Johnny's again is very intertwined with Loli, Ghostblade, and the Johnny's. They kind of have their own one big arc. So Lucky being the true last like 3 episode run, like people were kind of like, "Hey man, can we just get to the next character?" And I think it's kind of BS, man. Um, I said earlier, Queen's arc had the best animation in 2025, craziest fight 2025, right? Her arc was incredibly short, but it had good bits of theory food, I guess I would say. Um, I'll get into that later again, but there was a screen that showed a couple characters that we don't see until the end of season 1, and we get the Hero X winning the poll opening, right? I as I said just a couple seconds ago, and I've said a couple times before, Loli's, Ghostblade, and the Johnny's arc was all basically one big saga leading up to the Ruins incident. But one thing that I don't see talked about a lot is that I think that Nice's arc, which isn't the first 4 episodes, but I would say that Nice's arc is actually episodes 19 through 23. 19, 20, 21, and 22, 23, basically all have to do with Nice. You get Nice's backstory in those episodes. You basically get, again, those arcs are supposedly the Rune Incident and Dragon Boys, but it's quite literally Nice's show as well. And it was really interesting for me as a viewer because I was wondering, are we ever going to get more info on Nice? Like, this dude killed himself in episode 1. Are we going to find out where or why or what happened, what led him to that? We heard about the Smile incident in episode 2, I believe. And we see a billboard of Smile's cracked face in episode 1. So people were theorizing about the Smile incident for a while. People had a theory that, people theorized that Nice had something to do with it. And we find out that, in fact, it was one of the reasons for Nice's demise. On top of his failures with Ahu. So, I think that kind of summarizes my favorite arcs. I'd say Isol, Lucky's, and the big saga leading up to the Ruins incident. I loved Nice's mini arc as well. So again, I really just liked a lot of the arcs, but I would say again, Isol's my favorite arc. Period. I'll put that at the pedestal. Everything else is kind of in its own mix. But Isol's 3 episode run could be a movie. So, the last part of this video is kind of just going to be theories. So I'm just going to spitball. I mean, it could be just straight up bullshit. But you could also just reference this when it hopefully inevitably becomes true or not. And what I expect, one is to be Hero X Season 2 going to come out. We know it's confirmed for 48 episodes, but we don't know when Season 2 is going to come out. I would say 2027, late 2027. If not, no later than 2028. I think that's a good timetable. Although we got like the X trailer in like 2020, 2021, and the series didn't come out until 2025. So these predictions and theories are my own, but many people in the community have come to the same conclusions that I have at this point. So, what could be next? What could be coming in season 2? Well, who the hell is this lady? We see this lady, dubbed by the community as Lady Zero, a couple times in billboards throughout the season. We see this like kind of card, right? This like this kind of playing card poster for her with her little like I don't even know what that is. But we never see anything about her, this lady. We then the next time we see anything about her is in episode 12 on Queen's comeback. Midway through the episode, immediately after Queen does her first save, her first return in the middle of the city, we see a screen, and I have the entire screen in the next slide, with this lady who's just has question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. I feel like this is Queen's mom, or I mean, this is like Queen's parent in some way. We don't know who else Queen's mom could be. Otherwise, the little things on her head kind of they look a little similar to Queen's kind of like crown. And we see in the again season 1/season 2/hero poll opening that the heroes X, Hero 9, the tarot card lady, and all the 10 heroes, 11 heroes, are fighting against this lady and her forces. I believe that she is not from Earth. I believe that she is one of the 3 entities that landed on Earth, the other 2 being Dragon Boy and the little Johnny, or Big Johnny, I'm sorry. I think they came from the pod. But that's the thing. There's a ton of Easter eggs throughout the show showing this billboard. There's another scene in the show in like episode 3 or 4 also showing an ad showing this lady as well. I don't think we see any instances about this lady though, aside from the aforementioned things. Now, this is the stuff. Sorry, this is the stuff that really had me, intrigued because what the hell is this? This is in Queen's preview. At 24 seconds, you literally have to pause it at the exact frame. The Queen's parents, I said parents, right? Mickey and her uncle are telling. Oh, sorry, yeah, Mickey and her dad, because she calls Mickey her uncle. But her dad is basically Lu Zhen, right? Famous journalist turned leader of the Spotlight organization, which is, manufacturing fear. Tell her, don't worry, take that leap, right? And then as she leaps over this like little river, this door opens and it shows this. Now, Queen, her theme is called Queen of the Stars, right? There's this seemingly like voice screaming, like this face screaming, right? There's like star there, energy coming from there. Yellow, again, her colors, right? This is where we get into like, okay, tinfoil hat time, right? But what is this? We don't know. But one thing that I noticed at the end of episode 12 with Queen is that when Lucky's asking her about her past, right? Queen says, because of all my experiences, ever since I was young, right? Like Queen asks, like, yo, did you have any friends growing up? And Queen says, no, I didn't really, because of all my experiences, ever since I was young. And then Lucky, while reaching up to the stars, I feel like this is so intentional. There is no way this is not intentional when we're talking about Queen and her past, right? And there's an alien ship, This framing is very intentional. Oh, did you experience something bad when you were young? As she reaches up to the stars, and you know, she says, it's because of you that I've finally been able to hear that other voice in my heart. What voice, Queen? This? Right? And then the worst thing about it is that she says, it turns out that. So I feel like when someone says it turns out that, is that they're probably about to say something that is out of the usual, out of the norms, unordinary, extraordinary, right? But then they're interrupted by Big Johnny erupting out of the ruins, crashing out, which is kind of crazy because they hear all that commotion and they're there that fast, which is just nuts. Whatever Queen was about to say, 100% is important and will appear in season 2. This is just very much teasing stuff. The next thing is the tarot card diviner, who supposedly gave X his powers. She appeared somewhere after X donated money to the homeless lion. She could be a friend that X had all along. We don't really know about her. We don't know her origins. We don't know nothing. But we know that her, X, and 9 are all intertwined with each other. Excuse me. We also know that she gave, I believe, the tarot card, the Fool, to X, and then I'm gonna remember what she gave to the to 9. So I just remembered. Okay, so she gave the Fool to X, and she gave the Hierophant to Hero 9. Hero 9's power is supposedly the ability called Creation. His title is called Rebellious Hero 9, and he's again on this sheet. So this is the sheet that DOS was like, this is the progress they had after Queen got bodied by X in the Hero tournament. So they have info on Rock saying that the relationship with Rock is poor. Relationship with X under investigation for the Lady Zero, the question mark lady. 9 suspected ally, and apparently Rec fought X at some point, according to this data. Record of previous battle they fought. That's what they said. Unless it's saying record of previous battle that Rec has fought, and that's just the data they have on Rec. But yeah, this tarot card lady gave X his powers, as we see in the opening, the hero poll. Like the hero poll, X winning the hero poll opening. I'm just gonna call it from now on the season 2 opening. All right, that's what we're gonna refer to. All right. I don't think it actually is, but that's what I'm gonna call it. But these characters are gonna be very pivotal in the fight against the lady. It seems like the main antagonist of the show is gonna be this lady. This lady here. This is gonna be like the final antagonist. This may also just be the reincarnation of Zero in this lady. Who knows? We don't know. The next thing, we have one more, I think, after this. Dragon Boy's origins. One thing I noticed when I was digging in the wiki is that Dragon Boy was born on February 14th in 18 AC. We don't know anything about Dragon Boy's past, aside from the fact that he has parents that seemingly abused him and basically trained him and forced him to try and be strong and resistant. And I think that's how his powers came from. I mean, people, mentioned how tanky he was. We don't fully know, but it just seems like his trust powers are the ability to redirect damage that's taken to him and magnify it, multitudes. But the thing is that his backstory is completely skipped. Like his actual origins are completely skipped in season 1. He's also born in the same year and the same month. I believe it was mentioned I think the month, but the same year of the alien ship crashing. Very interesting. Very, very interesting that there's a correlation between those two. And again, as I mentioned before, there was 2 other pods breached aside from Big Johnny, right? And Little Johnny mentions, well, in there in the alien in the pod room with Ghostblade, you know, where if there was other creatures on this ship, if they're alive, what they could be alive, right? And if they're alive, where could they be? And then Isol immediately jumps them. But yeah, I think that we're gonna find out about more about this whole alien ship, the aliens in general, the correlation between trust and fear. Because the other thing to keep in mind is that Big Johnny is just immune, seemingly immune to trust. So, and that's actually the funny thing is that's alluded to in the first episode of Queen's arc, where Big Johnny just runs, like Queen has her domain set up to stop movement for Boa, and then Big Johnny just walks on through with no issues. Now I don't know if that's because she only applied her rules to Queen or to Boa, or if it's anything in that domain is forced to not move. But we later see when she does that same type of ability in the Ruins incident, Little Johnny is still able to roar and move. It seems like he's slowed down a little bit, but he's still able to move. That's a sign of Queen's powers probably getting stronger, but also the fact that Big Johnny is also just built like that. And that aliens and alien material, do not forget, alien material from the ship that is, Loli Sue is made with the metal from the ship. Nullifies trust, nullifies fear. Now, I believe this is the last, no, second to last theory. Isol, at the end of episode 24, 100% Rock is not expecting Isol to be here. Isol is pissed off. I think Isol is pissed off. I think Yang Cheng is not happy about not being in the top 10. He does not know why this dude Nice, who is supposed to be dead, is still around. And I think he's going to wonder, what the hell is this that Rock got going on here? Because as far as I know, this is a shrine to Zero that people are probably not supposed to know about. Does Yang Cheng know about Zero? I would imagine that most people in the universe know about Zero. They should. The calamity, the Dawnfall incident happened literally, 30 years ago? Like, people it's 2026. We're never going to forget about 9/11. I don't think people are going to forget about the Dawnfall incident. So, that also leads me to wonder, what is Nice's motives now that he's back into the equation? Take revenge on Treeman for abusing him? Stick it to Shang-Di? And prove that, he's capable and that he can hit the top 10 and he just needs to do it not under his guidance, and that Shang-Di is the problem, not him? Who knows? I'm low-key rooting for Nice here, but we don't know. I don't think Nice should have any kind of malice towards almost anyone except for the corporations, if you can ask me. Maybe Ahu as well. Oh yeah, and maybe Loli as well. So he does have some beef for people. But again, I do think Yang Cheng could be on the path for redemption. It starts right here though. It starts right here. The next theory. Or not even theory, but this is more so like what I want to see, I guess. Right, at this point we've kind of reached like less theories and more like what I want to see. I want to see the resolution between the Johnnies and Ghostblade. Whether I want it to be heartfelt, it'd be crazy if actually Ghostblade could speak for the first time over this. I can't lie. I don't think Ghostblade's going to be a mute forever. But I can also just see that Ghostblade arc concludes by him saving the Johnnies and sacrificing himself. Is it cliche? Yeah, probably. Would I be upset with it? No, I wouldn't be. I want to see Linling and Isol's resolution over the Murder of Moon. I expect a brawl. I want to see a brawl. I want to see some scrap. I want to see two dudes fighting over one of them girls getting killed. All right, I want to see that. I think it'd be satisfying. I think it's a good matchup. I think their fight, like Lingling's powers are just like punch and kick harder, I guess. Right? He's just like a strong dude. He's like literally like, I think his powers are literally Florida Man. Right? He's just like strong. But I think it would be an insane fight. I want to see Loli and Nice and their conflict. Especially now that Nice is back. I mean, Loli is probably furious hearing that this dude's dead and now he's alive again. And most importantly,
I want to see, and I think it's going to happen, X exposing the Hero Commission for what it is on national television. I think that's going to be what sets the stage for season two. Um, and I think from there we're gonna kind of see an acceleration of like multiple people's plans. Like I think Zero is gonna get resurrected at some point. I think we're gonna get some more backstory. I wouldn't be surprised if episode one starts with like picking up right where we left off and then going into X's origins and backstory of how he got his powers, as we see in the season two opening. But yeah. Um, thanks for watching. This was really fun to do. Again, I did this all in one take. I can already feel it in my voice that it's kind of getting hoarse. Um, could I have still listened to two? Probably. I was all over the place, but again, I kind of just like to ramble. And yeah. What else? What else? What? But yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I had to like reselect my thoughts. Take a breath. Keep some water. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sure gonna make more videos at some point in the near future. I initially did this. I got motivated by my friend to do this. Made a deal. He's like, "Hey man, I watch 86. You put out your first video since you said you've always wanted to do that. A little bit of a push. 86 is my favorite show, probably favorite show of all time. Yeah, you should watch. You guys should watch that too. I think my next video is gonna be on the tropes I absolutely despise in anime, manga, media in general. Because it's been brewing for a while, and I think I had a couple shows that were ruined because of just some really nasty, annoying ass tropes. But all in all, I can't wait for TB Hero X season two. I had a blast with the show. I had a blast making this video. Thank you guys for watching. And if you like what you see, please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me. I don't really necessarily care too hard about like making this a big grind and like trying to jump bump up in the algorithm, but everything does help. And yeah, you guys have a wonderful day and take care.